Hello, Kieran. It is great to see you. Thanks for carving out some time and catching up with us on the latest video update. How are you today?
I'm good. It's I haven't seen you in days since we were
Couple of
last
days.
in since we were last in New York.
That's right. We
But
just got back from a trip in Washington, D.C. and New York. It was great to see a lot of folks out there.
yeah, we're very busy. But it's great to be home as always. And the sun is
Indeed.
sort of out today.
I can see it behind you there. That's very nice. Yeah. Excellent. Well, we have a lot to cover, and there's been a lot going on since our last check-in. I'd love to start off, if we can, let's talk a little bit about the local and European elections that wrapped up just a couple of weeks ago. There's lots of headlines, lots of news, and I was following along, and what I was reading in the results didn't quite match up with the hysteria in the headlines there. Sinn Féin ended up with the second greatest vote share in history, gained more seats in local elections than any other party in the country, and yet the headlines sound a little different. Can you give us the story on what's the big takeaway and how that all went down?
Well, I suppose I'll give you the numbers first. So that Sinn Féin got 11.5% vote share, uh, which was an increase on our previous local government and European votes. We did win more seats. We did win two MEP seats, so that's members of the European Parliament. We lost one, so we have a net gain
Hmm.
of one. It was also the lowest ever seat number and vote share in local government for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael were their strongest because they have been embedded in these communities for over 100
Yeah,
years. But they still came out as two and three, or one and two. So we came third in that election. And there was a surge in independence as well. But they are so diverse group that it's very
yeah.
hard although they go by the name of independence, they're everybody from former members of Fianna Fáil to former members of Fine Gael to community activists to
Yeah, they can't really be grouped together as one theme or one political
yeah.
agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no common thread. But anyway, so it was. I think it's been we have Mary Lou who's classified it as a disappointing election, and that's because we are so ambitious for change. So we ran the
Yeah.
largest number of candidates we ever had. We had hoped to do better, win more seats. That didn't pan out. It was a very low turnout election. So it was the election I think was a 48% turnout, 49%
Okay.
turnout. In a general election, that's normally 64, 65% or upwards.
Wow.
So there was quite a number of people stay at home. As I say, these are local governments, so it's for local councillors. It is
Yeah.
not a general election, and for the MEPs, it's a number of seats out of a parliament of over 700. So yeah, we classified as disappointing, but we did make gains, which is
Yeah.
a good thing, and hopefully those new Sinn Féin councillors who have been elected will be able to deliver for their communities. And hopefully we now have a stronger voice for Ireland in Europe with having two Sinn Féin MEPs there.
Yeah. There's a lot to be proud of and grateful for in that move, and like you say, a lot to learn about moving forward. Um, and I would like to, if we could, just pause and discuss a little bit about in the run up to the elections and in some of the conversation around managing all the social media. I saw a lot of this. I know there was a lot of stuff I saw on the headlines there. There is a growing anti-immigration sentiment that is, I would argue, bordering on, or if not across the line into a racist approach to this work. It seems antithetical to what I know about the Irish people. And I'd like to know, what do you think is going on there? What are we seeing and what's going on with all that?
Well, I think like any of where the racist far right have engaged in politics, they take the germ of a very legitimate concern and take it off into a racist analysis. So in Ireland at the minute, north and south, but more in the south, there's a huge housing crisis. Uh, there are young people cannot afford rents and they're emigrating out. Young families can't afford to buy a home. Institutional investors are sweeping up whole estates.
Yeah.
And so there is a constricted housing market. Prices are going up. And we've got to the bizarre point that Dublin City Council have just released for sale in Dublin affordable housing, which is 450,000 euros. And that
Affordable
is
for whom?
well, it'll be affordable for institutional investors and the well off.
Yeah,
It'll not be
exactly.
affordable. It's not affordable
For a
for
family.
guards,
No.
for nurses, for doctors, for
Teachers.
teachers.
That's right.
So we have this crisis, but that crisis was not created by migrants. It was created by people who look and sound like me. It was created by the Irish establishment
Yep.
and for generations of Irish people, particularly over the last 30 years, because before that, there was always homes available in Ireland, and there was a change in policy and position with the state pulled back from providing homes. So we have that, but yes, it has morphed into some on a racist right have tried to blame migrants for this crisis, which it not only isn't fair, it's completely the antithesis to what it means to be an Irish Republican, to be Irish. I mean,
Yeah.
we are a nation that prides ourselves on Céad Míle Fáilte.
Yep.
We are a nation of immigrants. We know the hardship that immigrants face. I mean, we know that in New York, the No Irish Need Apply. We know
Yeah.
that the foundations of groups like the AOH were to defend Irish immigrants against the Know Nothings
Yep.
who attacked Catholic churches and attacked Irish immigrants. So we know that, and it's the same, and the same happened in England. So we know, or we should reflect on the challenges that people have coming to Ireland. There's loads of opportunities here. There is loads of space. There's loads of development land. We need to get building houses. The economy is firing ahead. There's jobs available. And we do need, of course, a immigration policy and procedures which are actually working, and that's not been the case. So we have a crisis in housing, and we have a complete shambles that the government has created in terms of immigration controls and how they're actually expedited. But that is not the cause of the problems. That is not the cause of the crisis in housing. That is not the cause for our young people immigrating. That solely lies in the responsibility of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, who have managed this state not just for the past 5 years since the last general election, but for the past 100 years, and particularly since the crash in terms of the property crash of the late 2005, 2006, 2007.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you. You said 30 years ago or so, the shift away from social housing or government subsidized or provided housing. Who oversaw that? What were the parties in government then?
Oh, it was Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. So it was Fianna Fáil in government, it was Fine Gael in opposition. So they
Yeah.
controlled both, but ideologically, and they have been dogmatic in their approach that the market must prevail. Before that, social housing and public housing was the go-to in Ireland. There was no
Yeah.
stigma attached to it. I was raised in a public housing in the north,
Yeah.
and that was the same for families who would be married in Dublin. The first houses they would get would always be public housing. So they moved away from that, and what we see is market forces playing out. And what we see is it's working for the market, it's working for institutional investors, it's working for developers, it is working for landlords. And when the government tried to pretend that €450,000, which is probably wouldn't be far off $430,000,
Dollars. Yeah.
is some way achievable or affordable for working families, is just crazy. So we need a fundamental change of government. We need a fundamental approach, and we need Sinn Féin and government to deliver that, because the parties of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are dogmatically wed to a policy which is failing all of our people and failing everybody and the next generation who are now heading to Canada, who are heading to Australia.
Australia. Yep. Yeah. I just thanks for clarifying that and naming, because it's the same parties that are here now that created this scenario, the same parties that are not responding to the growing racist elements and far right emerging from this, that are benefiting from that obfuscation of what's happening and the confusion around how what's happening. So it really is, I mean, it is on everything we see, time for change in every way possible. And that's
Yeah.
really what Sinn Féin offers. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just from the migrants' viewpoint, there's people who come here seeking asylum, who are fleeing conflict. They land in Dublin and they're handed a voucher for €50 and given a sleeping bag, and they can't work while they're going through that process. So they're left homeless on the streets with
That's the key part
very
that
little supports.
is left out of a lot of it. They're prohibited from working while they're waiting for a broken system to process their paperwork, and in the meantime are left to fend for themselves.
Yeah, and as I say, I always come back to the Irish experience. When
Yeah.
Irish people were fleeing hunger, they went to the US.
Yeah.
And they contributed to it. When Irish people were fleeing prosecution, they went to the US and Canada. When Irish people right up to the 80s were fleeing poverty and unemployment, they went to the US and Canada. We now face because of the visa restrictions in the North America, we now see a generation who are heading to Canada and Australia.
Yeah.
And these are young people who should be contributing to Ireland. These are the trades that should be building houses.
That's
So
right.
all of this is created by bad politics and bad policy by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and it can be changed and it can be cured. It is not a natural crisis. We are not out of space. What we have is bad politics.
That's right. Thanks for putting a fine point on some of that conversation. It's a vital conversation that I'm looking forward to continuing and finding more ways to provide solutions and understanding in that space, because there is no space for a racist approach or for anti-immigration sentiment. There just is a need for some education and understanding of what's happening there, but there's no room for any of that.
I don't want to overrate it. It's a very, very small minority. And
That's
it
right.
has, I mean, they failed in the local government elections. I think it was over 940 seats up for grabs, and they got a handful of them. I think they got less than 10. So there's no popular support for that. The Irish people are better than that.
Exactly right. Thanks for that. And we can move on now. If you could give us a little bit of a preview. I know we have Westminster elections, general UK elections here on Thursday. What are you looking at there? What can we expect from that?
Yeah,
from that space?
so we finished one elections and we're straight into the
Right
next
into
campaign
another.
the following
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
So the British general election is set for the 4th of July, which is, I believe, a day to celebrate America's
Something
victory
here.
over the English.
Something here. Yeah. I forget exactly. That's right. Ridding
So
ourselves of British colonial rule. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we are
absolutely.
open for any tips that you may want to share with us in Ireland. So that election is set for the 4th of July. The big news would probably be that we will see a new British government. So for the past 14 years, the Conservative and Unionist Party, as it's given its full title, our Tory party,
Mhm.
have been in power. So this will see Labour back. Labour were the party of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, who oversaw the signing of the Good Friday Agreement and oversaw a lot of the early difficulties with it. So that should, and we hope, signify a change of course from a British government. The Tories failed to engage with the Irish government, who are co-equal and joint partners. They ignored them, they degraded them, and they took unilateral actions such as on legacy, which stopped inquests, which stopped investigations, and also stopped access to the courts, all done in the face of every political party and the Irish government and international opinion and the US Congress.
Yeah.
To the point where the Irish government have now taken a case to Europe on this principle or this point. So we would hope that an incoming British government, and particularly a Labour government, would actually go back to the basics. What in securing the Good Friday Agreement was the relationship between a joint and partnership arrangement between the British and Irish governments, oversaw by American administrations, and in consultation with the parties in the North. So we are hopeful that can change. It remains to be seen. Keir Starmer, who's the leader of the British Labour Party and looks to be the next Prime Minister, is a bit of an unknown force. He's been very quiet and conservative in the campaign because of such a lead, but they have committed to revoke and replacing the legacy bill, but we have to see what that means. We also, of course, by the way, there's still 18 constituencies in the north of Ireland, which we will fight. So we've just finished elections in the south, and now we're in elections in the north. And we hope to at a minimum to secure the seats that we do have, and more on a good day maybe some gains. But it'll be an interesting outcome to this election, because you could see the demographic trends maintain where unionism could shred another seat or two. And they're in a minority at the minute, so that could just continue. So on the north, it'll be interesting to see how they pan out. But the big politics is, will we see a change in approach from the British government?
That's right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so space to watch there. And I will hint or preview that you and I will attempt to do a video update in the wake of the election just there at the weekend. Once numbers shake out and we get to see what the picture's taking up, stay tuned for a special edition of our video update as we provide a quick analysis of what to expect there. As we mentioned earlier, we were on the Hill in Washington, D.C. last week, and one of the most common questions we got up there is, we heard about the assembly for nonstop for about 2 years, and now we haven't heard about it at all. What's going on? What's happening there? How come we don't hear about it anymore? And it was pretty good to be able to talk about that. Care to share about what's going on up there?
Yeah, I suppose we've been talking about it for 2 years because it wasn't functioning and wasn't
Exactly.
meeting and it had been suspended. The good news is that it's operating and it is dealing with the issues of government. It is dealing with budgets. It's dealing with public services. They've just announced a huge funding package yesterday
That's,
that
yeah,
went to the public health service. So all of that, the good news is it's not making headlines for
that's
all
right.
the wrong reasons. The work is
Yeah,
continuing and continuing on and delivering in partnership. There will be further challenges in terms of budgets. There will be
yeah,
further challenges in terms of managing the changes that's happening north and south. But we are in a good place at this moment. And
yeah.
the institutions are working and working well. And that's the reason why we haven't heard of them, which was a good news story to report.
It felt good to be able to report on how boring budget meetings and and scheduled committee hearings are. That was it was a good opportunity to talk about, just like you say, the progress of managing the change that's happening. So I thank you again, Kieran, for taking the time. Stay tuned to uh, this channel for the update over the weekend. And also, if you noticed, our regular viewers noticed, we're now offering this on two channels. We have the YouTube video update if you care to watch while you listen, and then as well on our Spotify channel with the audio podcast. If you prefer, if you maybe are of the opinion that we have great faces for radio and just want to listen to what's going on, or
Our,
drive into work and listen to it then. But you can
our
listen to them
soothing
both.
our soothing voices will put you to sleep.
Exactly right. Karen, thank you for taking the time to catch up with us today, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, hopefully I'll talk to you the weekend after the elections.
Thank you. Bye. Kieran, good to see you again. So soon after yesterday's recording of our video update, as we mentioned, we were going to be coming back with some analysis and information about the UK general election, and I'm happy to say that here we go. What's the headline? What's the big 10 points on top?
Well, it's been a hell of a 24 hours or 36 hours now, I think it is. So counting took place throughout the night, our time. So whenever we awoke to having a very significant election in terms of Sinn Féin's presence, in terms of the unionist performance, and also in terms of what that means in terms of a new British government. The takeaway for me was just the incredible performance of Sinn Féin, a strong, robust performance.
Yeah.
We increased our vote share in an election, which is normally a difficult election for Sinn Féin, because people should know we do not take our seats in Westminster. So we run for election based on being abstentionists. We do not go to Westminster. We provide the services to our constituencies,
Constituents,
but
yep.
we do not attend, because we do not swear allegiance to the king, and we do not believe a British government has the right, a British Parliament, to apply their laws in any part of Ireland. And also, neither do we believe Irish people should be dictating British laws to Britain. So anyway, that's
Yeah.
the historical context to it. And then the historical significance of this election is Sinn Féin's increased its share of its votes. We have increased the majorities for the seats we had in all other constituencies. We've increased the votes. But here's the big one. Sinn Féin is now the largest party from the north of Ireland, represented or been elected to the Westminster
That's right.
Parliament. So we have concluded a run of 3 sets of elections over the past number of years in the north. We have consolidated our position. We are now the largest party in Westminster. We are the largest party in local government, and we are the largest party in the Assembly.
Yeah.
And then just by then, we are also now the 5th largest party in the British Parliament, although we don't attend.
Yeah.
So it has been a very strong, as I say, and robust performance by Sinn Féin. And even in constituencies where we had, if you like, safe majorities, our vote share went up. So people are
Yeah.
engaged. People heard our message about positive leadership, heard our message for change, and that they have come out and they voted for that.
Okay, so that top line analysis and seeing the surge in support and people turning out to support Sinn Féin's positive leadership numbers and vision is fantastic. What does that look like on the ground? What are we looking at in numbers and seats?
So Sinn Féin now have 7 seats. There's 18 constituencies in the north of Ireland. Sinn Féin
Yeah.
have 7. The DUP have 5. The SDLP have 2. And then the Alliance Party have 1. They won 1, lost 1.
Yeah.
And then there's an independent unionist and the TUV, who are an extreme unionist party, have 1, and the UUP have 1. So yeah, we have 7 seats, and of those 7 seats, we increased our majority in them all. But we also done really well in other constituencies. We just missed taking a 8th seat from the DUP in a constituency called East Derry by the long-standing MP Gregory Campbell. We missed that by just shy of 200 votes. So
180 votes or something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
unbelievable.
so in a constituency where there was 12,000 other SDLP votes and another
Incredible.
1,082 votes. So that seat is there for the taking the next time out. And
Yep.
what's significant about all this, these are all seats which were always deemed to be safe unionist seats.
Yeah.
Like in the last election was the first time Sinn Féin took the seat in North Belfast with John Finucane. That was the seat of Carson. That was the seat that had always been unionist since the foundation of the state. And all that is changing, and all that talks to and speaks to the demographic changes that are underway, and speaks to our hopes for the future of fundamental constitutional change.
Yeah, the vote share, I'm just looking at the numbers as well. The shift in vote share overall across the North is something else to name. What does all this mean for, we have all of the local here in the North shifts and changes and seeing the direction of people attracted to the positive vision and future. What does this mean for new Labour government? This brings in a record majority of the Labour government in Britain, and how might that have an effect?
Well, you're right. I've just dealt with the North of Ireland, which constitutes, I think, 3% of the seats in Westminster.
That's
so,
right.
and I'm always very clear. The tail does not wag the dog in these circumstances. So we have a new British government, which is headed by Keir Starmer and the British Labour Party. They have been out of power for 14 years. They were the party of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, who were the foundation and safeguarding the Good Friday Agreement, and they abided by it by a large extent. I'm not saying they were perfect, but they knew and understood their international obligations under the Good Friday Agreement. Whenever the Tories came in under David Cameron, there was a divergence. They were hands off. They didn't involve themselves in it, and they broke away from the very central part of the Good Friday Agreement, and that is the partnership with the Irish government and the British government as co-equal guarantors, and that's the key bit. They are co-equal guarantors and of an agreement, an internationally bound agreement. What the British government done was started taking unilateral actions while it was on issues like legacy, while it was on Brexit. So we would hope that is now gone, and that has done a huge amount of damage to our agreements and to relationships between Dublin and London. An incoming Labour government should have a reset in those relationships. They should go back to working as partners with the Irish government and co-equal partners with the Irish government. They should go back to recognising their obligations on the Good Friday Agreement to act with rigorous impartiality. In all aspects, the Tories did not do that. And that includes the discussion about the future and the discussion about Irish unity. As you can see from the number of MPs that are returned, that there's a majority of them are non-unionist MPs.
That's right.
There is no unionist majority vote for continued division of Ireland. So all that speaks to the future, and all that speaks to the changes that are underway. A British government should be part of that and should remain rigorously impartial. And Greg, just there's one very specific piece aside from the Good Friday Agreement that they need to deal with, and that is that when I talked about unilateral actions, the British government introduced a bill on the legacy of the conflict.
Yeah, that was about that.
Yeah, and it was completely unilateral. It was opposed by the Irish government. It was opposed by victims. It was opposed by all political parties across Ireland. It was opposed by the British Labour Party in opposition. And the British Labour Party says if elected, they would revoke and replace that legislation. There's now an absolute urgency on the British government to act on that, the incoming British government to act on that commitment, to revoke that legislation, to allow families of victims to go back into court and have the right to be heard, that investigations should continue, and of course, the inquests that have been suspended immediately need to restart and continue from where they left off. That'll be the test of this Labour Party's commitment to their manifesto responsibilities and to the Good Friday Agreement. So that's a very practical issue, of a matter of urgency. But the big strategic thing is that they need to get back to what worked. What are the foundations of the Good Friday Agreement, and what are the principles of the Good Friday Agreement, and what are the commitments of it?
Yeah, this opportunity here to reset that connection, that contact point. Thank you for that rapid analysis here just hours after the counting is completed. It is clear that this opportunity to immediately revoke the legacy legislation, as like you said, led out of opposition as their position and the campaign promises. So that'll be the matter at hand here in the immediate future. But a larger picture as well emerges about an opportunity to reset. So thank you very much for all that. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I'm going to go and get some sleep now and rest easy after a long night. And it was a great night to be up and watch the results. And as I said, we came very close to winning other seats. And even in my home of West Belfast, for the share of the vote to increase so well was just great to see. So people are behind us. People want to see change, and they've given us the mandate to deliver. The British government need to deliver, need to listen. We are the largest party by far in the north.
Thank you, and on that, thank you very much, Ciarán, and we'll see you all soon. Farewell. Thank you.